Mornings filled with meaningful business talk.
Giving you useful advice on how to win at your career.
I am Randy Bernardino.
And I am Mayan Manzano Gerzon, and this is
Daily Insight. Hi, Mayan. Good morning. How are you?
Hi Randy, good morning. I'm doing good. How are you holding up? How is your 486th day of quarantine?
I've already lost count. I'm surprised that you already know the count.
Yeah, 468.
Well, I'm eager to know what are the trending business news around the world. What's our first story, Mayan?
That's right. Now, Olympics may be canceled if pandemic is not over. Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games Organizing Committee President Yoshiro Mori warned that the postponed games will have to be canceled if the coronavirus pandemic isn't brought under control by next year. The pandemic has already forced a year-long delay of the games, which are now scheduled to open on July 23, 2021. But Tokyo Games chief Yoshiro Mori answered with a categorical no when asked whether the games could be delayed until 2022 if the pandemic remains a threat next year. In that case, it's cancelled, Mori said. Mori noted the games had been cancelled previously only during wartime and compared the battle against coronavirus to fighting an invisible enemy. If the virus is successfully contained, we'll hold the Olympics in peace next summer, he added.
Belgium to reopen businesses and schools from mid-May. Prime Minister Sophie Wilms announced that businesses and schools in Belgium will gradually reopen from the middle of May, easing a lockdown imposed in mid-March to curb the coronavirus pandemic. However, the premier added that nothing is etched in stone. The different phases of easing the lockdown could still be delayed if experts decide there has been an insufficient decrease in hospitalizations, she said. Businesses will have to respect social distancing when they reopen, she said. Restaurants will begin reopening only from June 8 at the earliest. A timetable has not been set for cafes and bars. As for schools, some classes will be able to go ahead from Monday, May 18th.
3M earnings on the rise. Industrial giant 3M reported rising quarterly profits as it ramps up production of N95 masks while combating price gouging and fraud during the coronavirus outbreak. The company manufactures a wide range of products in many industries, but has become prominent as one of the only producers of N95 respirator mask, which can protect against the virus. The masks have been an essential item to hospitals on the front line of the outbreak and have emerged as the object of illicit practices, price gouging, and fraud, with new cases announced by federal officials in the last day.
French opera houses sew face masks. Normally, they make tutus and elaborate costumes for some of the greatest opera and ballet stars in the world. But the costume makers from opera houses across France are now turning their considerable talents to making masks. Since the beginning of April, Christine Neumeister, the costume director of the Paris Opera, has been driving around collecting masks that her couturiers have made while locked down at home. The first week, they made 1,000 for the Red Cross and a Paris maternity hospital, and the following week, they made a similar number for the Salvation Army. Packed into tutu bags marked Opera de Paris, they are among the chicest personal protection accessories around. Now, Mayan, it's so nice to hear that there are operas in France doing their part to help fight the COVID-19 virus.
Yes, Randy, I agree. And I'm like now curious to know what they look like because I believe you mentioned they're like one of the chicest face masks ever made from Paris.
I know maybe you're gonna look like the Phantom of the Opera with something,
Or
or
maybe
Don Quixote. I don't know.
that's true. Or maybe I could maybe look like someone who will go to Paris Week.
Yeah.
Paris Fashion Week.
Well, what's our last news for today, Mayan?
Our last news, Randy, pet adoptions and fosters skyrocket. Animal shelters across the United States are emptying out thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, as people confined to their homes are adopting or fostering animals in droves. Kitty Block, President and CEO of the Humane Society of the United States, said as the COVID-19 outbreak took hold, shelters, many of which were forced to close because of stay-at-home orders, launched adoption appeals, and the response has been overwhelming. People all over the country are looking for pets to help them cope with confinement. Shelters nationwide are also reporting that the number of people fostering animals are skyrocketed. You know, Randy, this is such a good positive news to hear, because I believe, I agree that animals help with your mental health, right? So it's such a good thing to foster and adopt pets at this time of pandemic.
Especially for people who are lonely. Now they can have a companion, a furry friend to make them happy at home.
Now, when we come back, Randy, we have a special guest to discuss managing anxiety while working from home.
So stay tuned, everyone.
Tired of being cooped up inside? Why not bring the beauty of the outdoors indoors? Don't have a green thumb? Try a succulent terrarium. Succulent plants are easy to maintain and add a bit of nature therapy to your home or office. Hello, from Laguna Niguel, California. My name is Janice Multong, and today I'll be showing you how to create your very own succulent terrarium. It's a very easy and simple DIY project, and it will probably take you less than an hour. Most of us are already staying home anyway, so this is definitely a project that you can do while you're stuck inside the house. So let's go ahead and get started. To create your very own succulent terrarium, you will need soil, preferably cactus soil, decorative pebbles or small rocks, terrarium or any kind of glass container, such as a cookie jar, a fish bowl, or a glass vase. And you'll also need your succulents. Additionally, you'll need a trash bag, scissors, a small funnel or empty water bottle, and gloves if you don't want to get your hands dirty. Step 1. Add a thick layer of soil. Make sure to add enough for the plants to root. I prefer to use cactus potting soil, but regular potting soil works also. As an added step, make sure that you create a base of either rocks or sand before you add the potting soil to your terrarium. Step 2. Remove the plant from the pot and loosen the dirt. Place it in your terrarium bowl and gently press. Continue to transplant your succulents and arrange them inside the terrarium. Step 3. Add your decorative pebbles for the final step. If you don't have a funnel, you can use a cut water bottle as an alternative to add rocks to the hard-to-reach places. And there you have it. You've just created your very own succulent terrarium. To care and maintain, give the terrarium direct sunlight every day for at least 5 hours. Water the terrarium every 2 weeks or even less. Succulents are desert plants and do not need much water. I hope you guys had fun today creating your very own succulent terrarium, and I hope you found it as easy as I said it would be. From Laguna Niguel, California, my name is Janice Multong. We live in interesting times. Stay productive, guys!
Welcome back to Daily Insight, and today we have a very important topic.
Yes, May Ann. Today, we are discussing managing anxiety while working from home. Our guest is a licensed clinical psychologist. Let us all welcome Dr. Sydney Fontenares. Hi, Dr. Sydney.
Hi, Dr. Sydney.
Hi, Mayan.
Hi, thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Now, because of the coronavirus, a lot of people now are working from home. And Dr. Sydney, we want to know, first of all, why is this an important topic that we're discussing today?
Right. No, that's a good question, Randy. So, working from home is an important topic, especially when you're talking about working from home and anxiety, because this is the new norm. This is what is happening, all over the world. We've shift from working in the office or the clinic to being at home, and it was a very fast change too. So, when things change fast and when things are uncertain, like these times, anxiety comes up. And when anxiety comes up, it will affect our workflow, it will affect our productivity, and it becomes a whole cycle, right? And
Mhm.
so that's why being able to talk about it, to be able to acknowledge that anxiety is coming up while I'm working from home is important, because then you're able to acknowledge the issue and create a action plan and have more um, of an answer to help yourself while you're working from home, because we don't know how long this situation is going to be like, how long we're going to be working from home, and even afterwards too. How does um, work going to look like, even if the shelter in place gets removed? So yeah, we've been told, healthcare is going to look so differently when we go back into the clinics.
Now, Dr. Sydney, how does anxiety manifest now that people are working from home? What are like the signs?
Sure. So anxiety, just like depression, it's going to look differently in everyone.
Mhm.
Um, some particular things that I'm starting to see is procrastination, putting things off to the very last minute. And again, like I said, it's a cycle. So when you're
Yeah.
procrastinating because you're feeling anxious, then all your work gets piled up, and then more anxiety starts to increase too. So procrastination is a piece. Unhealthy habits start to come up too. So I'm starting to hear, a lot of Netflixing.
Oh
That's
yes, that we are. Me and Mayan are guilty of that.
right, right. I mean, that's part of the procrastination. We're putting things to the side and using unhealthy habits, eating more, snacking a little bit more, sleeping in a lot more, that sort of stuff. And it's anxiety because we're avoiding what our responsibilities are. And that's what anxiety makes us do. It makes us avoid things. It makes us not really be productive or goal oriented. We get into a worry cycle. That's what we call it. And it just kind of builds up. So that's how I'm starting to see that, how anxiety is coming up and working from home. I'll see more heightened emotional states. So anger might come up a lot more interpersonal relationship issues or
Yes.
conflict between husband and wife, with the children as well. There's distance learning that's happening too, so that's going to also add to the stress. So those are kind of things of how anxiety is manifesting. And of course, there's also physical symptoms of anxiety too. Some people might get upset stomachs, some people might get headaches, some people will sweat, that sort of stuff. Sleep more, eat more, that sort of things.
A lot of the things that you're saying, Dr. Sydney, are what I'm feeling, sadly. Well, like a higher emotional state, um, I don't know why, but like certain scenes on K dramas make me cry now, and it's like, why am I so emotional right now? And then even just the procrastination with my work, sometimes I know it takes me a certain number of hours to do something, and then I'll do it. For example, if it takes me 5 hours to edit a video and my deadline is midnight, then I do it 5 hours before midnight, when really I could have just done it earlier, so much earlier in the day.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dr. Sydney, I agree with Randy because I myself see the sign that I'm sometimes procrastinating chores in the house, and I'm curious, shouldn't it mm, be easier now that we're home?
Sure. I mean, you would think so, right?
That's what I thought.
Right, yeah. It's usually working from home is considered a perk at a job
Mhm.
before, right? But again, just thinking about why we're working from home, right? There was a big crisis that happened. We're put in a situation, and very quickly, right? We had to adjust very quickly, working from the office, going, start working from home, and not really being able to prepare for it. That's the anxiety that people are experiencing. And just thinking about what just happened with like logistics,
Yes.
having setting up technology to do all your Zoom meetings,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't very prepared. At my work, we had to create just a lot of different networks because everyone started to work from home, and it caused a lot of issues, and our normal workflow is interrupted. And also just thinking too, we don't have our normal outlets.
Mm-hmm.
We're sheltering in place where we can't, go to a restaurant after work, or go out and have some, do something casual to have that outlet. We're really just in our houses, maybe taking a walk or two, but there isn't that normal workflow or that normal routine that we have right now for working from home. So that's why it's a little bit different. It's not much of a perk right now. It's
Yeah.
necessary
Mhm.
time, and you're adjusting, and also we don't know, again, like I mentioned, we don't know how long we're working from home. There's usually a plan with that sort of stuff, so that's also going to add to our anxiety, this uncertainty of how our work is going to look like.
Yes. On top of being in a new environment for working, all of the distractions that come with it.
Yes.
Especially, I know for people who may have babies, like Mayan and Dr. Sydney, it must be so hard working with a baby at home right now.
Just hearing Dr. Sidney explain it, I'm already getting.
I know.
That's a
Well,
lot.
right now we explored about why we even feel anxious working from home. When we come back to Daily Insight, Dr. Sydney will give us some tips on how to manage our anxiety.
We know you're scared too.
We know you're sleepless and exhausted.
We know you want to stay home and be with your loved one.
Go to work and put your own life on the line for others to live.
The doctors,
nurses,
paramedics,
therapists,
rod deck,
Medical assistants,
pharmacists,
Medical technologists,
janitorial staff,
clerical staff, and to all of you who still go to work every day.
keep us safe and to provide the things that we need.
please know we are praying for you too.
And we promise to stay home and healthy for you.
our love and appreciation goes to you and your families.
you are our new heroes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Daily Insight. Today we have clinical psychologist Dr. Sydney Fontanares, and we are discussing managing anxiety while working from home. Now, Dr. Sydney, a lot of people want to know, how can they deal with anxiety?
Right, we've talked about what is anxiety and why we're experiencing it. And the next piece is to be able to address it and to be able to manage it. So you are going back to a good workflow while working from home. A couple things that I would start off with is, first of all, being able to acknowledge the anxiety. Anxiety is a normal human experience, especially now because of the uncertainty, because there's so many unknowns going on. Of course, we're going to be feeling anxious. So to be able to acknowledge it, again, like I've mentioned before, helps us be able to identify the issue that's coming up in our workflow. The second piece is a plan of action. Is there there's working from home is very unstructured. So the goal would be to figure out a way to structure it in a way. So like I mentioned before, there's usually a whole routine that you go through to prepare for work. Could you be able to recreate that on a Monday through Friday or whenever you usually work, to be able to, do your regular hygiene, maybe put on something that's not sweatpants or leggings or things like that to
Actually
get
wear
kind of,
pants too.
yeah, it's
Maybe
your mindset, right?
pants.
Normal pants, yeah,
Yeah.
pants with buttons. And a
Yes.
zipper. Yeah, I mean, maybe you're not wearing a suit and tie, but something to help you get back into that mindset, that routine. Because when we don't really notice what kind of routines we fall into, like preparing ourselves for work, that puts us in a work mode and helps us feel that structure, tells our brains, what is coming up next, and that will help manage the anxiety against, something that's uncertain or unknown. So if you're able to figure out kind of a routine for yourself to start off your day and to also end your day too, creating those boundaries with work mode and home mode is going to help with anxiety as well. Again, creating a structure. If you're able to work with your partner to trying to figure out when your partner is going to help out with the distance learning, and when you're going to do the distance learning, there's a little bit more control over the situation that can help with managing the day-to-day. Other things that can help too is social networking, having social outlets. So part of the anxiety that we might be experiencing working from home is that we don't have our coworkers to talk to, maybe to even our supervisors or our bosses, to be able to express what's going on, and they're able to talk about it with you, and you guys have that common ground. So they're not as accessible as before. So maybe if you're able to contact a coworker on a regular basis, to be able to check in with them, maybe even to talk about the logistics of working from home, what are some issues they're experiencing, and kind of brainstorm together to be able to work through that. Because again, the logistics of working from home, people are still figuring it out. And if we're able to, think of answers together, that can be really helpful. So another piece to be able to help with anxiety is self-care. I know that's a trending word right now, but it's so important right now. And self-care isn't just, bubble baths and face masks. It's doing even your chores. If there's something, so because if our chores get piled up, and our house is starting to get messy, our environment can play a role in how we feel. And since we're at home most of the time, if we're able to maybe clean up here and there, I usually try to set a timer for 10 minutes, and then that's it for the rest of the day. That can be kind of my self-care for that day. Another piece too, I think the most important piece is examining our expectations. I think we all expect to have the same level of productivity as we had when we were going into the office or into the clinic. But again, with all these factors that are playing a role right now during this crisis, can affect our productivity. And then when we're seeing our productivity lower, that can affect our mental state. It'll increase the anxiety. And then again, we're kind of in procrastination mode. And so if we're able to think about, what are some real expectations for myself that can be helpful. And, a bonus would be if you're able to talk about it maybe with your boss. I can imagine your boss or your supervisor also in, a similar position with working from home and their own productivity. So if you're feeling comfortable with having that conversation, that might help with anxiety that you're experiencing. If you're setting up these expectations that right now are really difficult, that can fuel the anxiety.
Now, Dr. Sydney, you said a lot of interesting things. First one that caught my attention was that you need to acknowledge that right now you are feeling anxious, because there's a lot of people who think I'm a normally calm person. Right now, I don't have anything to be anxious about. I'm sleeping more. I'm getting everything done, and I'm just wondering, why am I feeling this way? And then what you said is so important, is you need to acknowledge, yes, I am facing anxiety. Now, does that happen to you, May? And sometimes you're just wondering, why are you feeling like this all of a sudden?
I was thinking the same thing, Randy, because Dr. Sydney gave a lot of ways in order to deal with anxiety. But I think the very first one is the hardest, because how can you even proceed with all of these ways if you don't acknowledge that you are having anxiety? It's very important that we're talking about this right now, because Dr. Sydney is giving us the signs, like what we've discussed earlier. How does it manifest to a person? And I believe that's really the most important thing we should do. So acknowledge first is creating a list. It's like there's a list, doc, that you have to take. I'm like, am I this? Am I experiencing this? And then, okay, yes, I'm all of this. Then I'm really having the anxiety. Yeah, I think there should be something like that for you to really acknowledge and accept that you're experiencing it. Because Randy, it's hard to accept. It's like I don't know, but it's not normal, right? So
I think sometimes, especially for the two of you who are parents, you want to be the firm rock in your family. Like, I gotta keep my family together, because if I'm feeling anxiety, all the more my partner, my kid, when I should be the one I am the glue. I really think that's how mothers are. I think mothers are the glue that keeps the family together. So, but just acknowledging that we are human. There are some feelings that, especially now with the future, that's uncertain.
And kind of talk upon that point too, Randy. You're saying, if you acknowledge anxiety is coming up, it kind of is like a bad thing, right?
Yes.
But hopefully, the message is that anxiety is not totally bad. I want to put that also out there, because anxiety, as much as it can spiral out and affect us, it can also play a positive role for us, because it allows us to be on guard. It motivates us to push forward, allows us to be more goal oriented, as long as you're keeping anxiety in a good balanced place. And that's the whole idea of this conversation, to be able to acknowledge where you're at with your anxiety. Is it helping me be productive, being more watchful, or is it becoming more of an issue? And are there things that I can do to kind of get back to this place again?
Yes. And another thing that was really important, especially for me, is about self-care. That you said it's not just that skincare, but it's really just taking care of yourself. So what I've been doing is I allow myself to be unproductive. I allow myself to have lazy time, like what you said, you give 10 minutes just for yourself. There's a lot of pressure lately that now we have to be so productive. We have to learn a new skill. We have to learn a foreign language. We have to learn an instrument. But it's just, I was feeling that pressure a lot, and I put these goals on myself, and I thought I would feel better. But then there were just some days when I couldn't check off my checklist and like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, and I didn't do this. And I just had to step back and say, you know what? It's okay. Number one, these are self-imposed goals. No one is telling me that I need to be a professional dancer or something like that. And we just have to be realistic that sometimes we just need time for ourselves to enjoy every now and then.
Yeah, the idea with self-care is to feel re-energized. So if we're expending more energy in maybe learning the new language or putting so much, stress on a new skill that we're learning, I would maybe step back and think about, how is this serving me? Is it re-energizing me, or is it taking more energy away? And if it is taking more energy away, is it worth it? Right.
Yes.
And yeah, I think being able to recognize what self-care looks for you.
Dr. Sydney, I'm also very curious that now that we are going through this pandemic, lockdown, quarantine, and we're very prone to anxiety, is there like a tangible proof at your workplace that your patients or referrals are increasing during this time?
Yes, there has been an increase in referrals. I do talk therapy with my patients. And, I am seeing themes coming up very centered around the COVID-19 crisis. There are, many therapists, psychologists have switched to telehealth. I think I would say all. And so, therapy is a lot more accessible. I would say if that is something that people are interested in, to possibly look up telehealth or teletherapy.
A lot of good tips that we learned today. I really think that I can already immediately start applying them in my life.
Thank you, Dr. Sydney, for joining us today. We've learned a lot of things. This topic is very timely and very beneficial to everyone right now. So I hope that our viewers, Randy, have benefited from our episode this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sydney, for sharing with us your insights.
Well, thank you, Randy. Thank you, Mayanne. I think it's wonderful that this is part of your conversation to your viewers. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
So these are mornings filled with meaningful business talk,
giving you useful advice on how to win at your career.
I am Randy Bernardino.
And I am Mayanne Manzano Garzon, and this is
Daily Insight.